Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's talk about one of the most stressful decisions a parent can make, choosing the right school board. It feels like everything is riding on this one choice, right? Well, today, we're going to demystify this whole thing and give you a clear path to help your child succeed in university admissions.
All right, let's just dive right into the questions that probably keep you up at night. First up, will putting your child in CBSE totally block them from getting into foreign universities? Is it a deal breaker?
And then there's the flip side of that coin. Do you have to go the IB route? Is the IB diploma basically a compulsory ticket for studying abroad? You hear this all the time, but let's find out if it's actually true.
And here it is, the big one, the fear that haunts every parent. Could you make one wrong move, choose the wrong board, and boom, your child gets rejected from their dream university? It's a terrifying thought, but honestly, the answer might surprise you.
You know, this quote really hits home because it comes from a real story. A student named Ashwin, who was a top performer in CBSE, decided to switch to IB really late in his high school career. And let me tell you, it caused so much stress and chaos. His story is the perfect example of how the real danger isn't the board itself, it's making a late, uninformed switch.
So before we can even talk about solutions, we've got to understand the problem. Let's take a look at why this whole university admissions landscape feels like such a confusing, high-stakes maze for so many of us.
I mean, think about it. You're getting advice from all sides, and a lot of it is conflicting. The rules are different for every single country. University requirements seem to change every year. You've got consultants who sometimes use fear to sell their services, and then there's social media, just filled with so-called shortcuts and hacks. It's no wonder parents feel completely lost in all this noise.
Okay, so let's break it down, starting with our first major pathway, the CBSE system. What is it good for? And more importantly, if your child is in CBSE, what do you, as a parent, need to be doing to help them reach their global ambitions?
So here's the deal with CBSE, and it's all about trade-offs. On one hand, it's an absolute powerhouse for building academic rigor, especially in math and science. It gets students ready for those tough, competitive exams. But, and this is a big but, it doesn't automatically build up things like extracurricular depth, leadership skills, or the kind of essay writing that Western universities look for. Those are the gaps that you, the parent, have to strategically help fill.
And let's just put this myth to bed once and for all. Is CBSE a barrier? Absolutely not. You can see here that top universities across the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, you name it, they all recognize CBSE. They know it's a rigorous curriculum, so the idea that choosing CBSE slams the door shut on international options is just, well, it's just not true.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about the other major player, the IB. Now, a lot of people think of this as the golden ticket for global admissions, the default choice. But it's really important to understand that the IB has its own unique strengths and its own blind spots.
And this really shows you the flip side of the coin, doesn't it? The IB curriculum is almost tailor-made for the holistic review process that so many international universities use. It's fantastic for developing those crucial research, writing, and critical thinking skills. But here's the catch. It might not prepare students as well for those super competitive, speed-based entrance exams, and sometimes the subject drilling isn't as deep as what you'd find in other systems.
And that's because universities around the world know exactly what an IB student brings to the table. They see that diploma and they know they're getting someone with strong critical thinking, research skills, and solid writing ability. It's a known quantity, a globally respected credential that signals a student is ready for university-level work.
So, we've looked at CBSE, we've looked at IB, and all of this brings us to what is maybe the most important takeaway of this entire discussion, the aha moment, if you will. Real success in admissions isn't just about the piece of paper your child gets after 12th grade. It's about the whole person they've become along the way.
So check this out. It doesn't matter if your child is in CBSE or IB or something else entirely. This is the universal checklist. Admissions officers everywhere are looking for these 4 things. Real depth in extracurriculars, not just a long list. Powerful, well-written essays. Some kind of real-world experience, like research or an internship. And of course, solid scores on standardized tests. The board is just the foundation. These things are the pillars you build on top of it. This right here, this is the fundamental shift in thinking that can change everything. You have to remember, universities don't just admit report cards. They admit people. They admit stories. Your job isn't just to help your kid assemble a file of documents. It's to help them tell their unique story as a curious, passionate, capable human being. And once you start thinking that way, all that anxiety starts to transform into a clear, actionable strategy.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it without losing your mind? I get it. So here's a simple 4-step framework that you can actually use to guide your decisions.
Look, forget about the million different tips you see online. Just focus on these 4 simple rules. First, decide on a general direction early on. Are we thinking India, abroad, or do we want to keep it flexible? Second, build that profile steadily, bit by bit, over years, not in a panicked rush in 11th grade. Third, focus on consistency. A long-term commitment to 1 or 2 things is way more impressive than a bunch of random one-off achievements. And finally, and this is maybe the most important one, keep your child emotionally stable. This process is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't let it burn them out.
And really, it all boils down to these 2 paths. On one side, you have the panic-driven choice. This is where you're making late switches, you're just chasing after brand names and university rankings without a real plan. On the other side, you have the plan-driven choice. This is all about early planning, making strategic subject selections, and building that profile piece by piece. It's pretty clear which path leads to less stress and better outcomes, right?
So if you remember only one thing from our entire conversation today, let it be this. The wrong board doesn't ruin a kid's future. What does? Wrong timing and poor planning. A well-thought-out, consistent journey through CBSE is 1,000 times better than a chaotic, panicked, last-minute switch to IB. It's all about the plan, not just the label.
So at the end of the day, the question you should be asking isn't which board is the best. The real question is our plan built for the right pathway? Is it thoughtful? Is it consistent? And is it built for the long haul? And hopefully after today, you have the tools and the confidence to answer that question.